Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a seventh-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
It is incorrect. I told you he's going to be number one overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
him because
thing now
I expect him to have down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not
a seventh-round pick
were two
who didn't even play good.
Quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
What's going on? Welcome to SportsGrid in-game live game day. It is Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day. We have a full day of sports ahead. Baseball has been underway. We have more baseball coming up. Myself, Tom Vecchio, along with Joe Madden here from 4 p.m. until 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, a full day of baseball. We have an NBA playoff game tonight. We have an NHL playoff game tonight. We have a ton to get to. Action underway. We'll have guests for over the next 4 hours. We have 3 of them coming to talk about their takes for today's games. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, happy Memorial Day to everyone out there. Lots of great action right now on the Diamonds, especially if you're a Baltimore Orioles fan, as they take that lead, Tom, 5-0 over the St. Louis Cardinals. But this game's still early, bottom of the fourth. You have an opportunity, if you like the Cards coming into this one, to hit in this game, to hit Charlie Morton. You could have them coming back. So there's a +4.5 on that run line at +110. But Tom, how has your day been starting?
It's off to a good start. I am currently sweating a Rafi Devers hit, my usual hit parlay that I do every day. Tweet it out at Tom_Vecchio and then the number 1. I like to keep it simple when it comes to baseball. Rely on good hitters, good pitchers, good teams, whatever it might be, and that's trusting hitters to get hits. Just 2 hitters, and generally those odds are -250, -270, whatever it might be. But if we pair 2 of them together, that's where we get close to even money thereabouts. And I've been doing it for the majority of the season. It was really, really hot at the beginning portion of May, the middle portion of May. The last 2 days, a little bit up and down, some wins, some losses. Looking for 1 hit from Rafi Devers right now, and surprisingly, the Sox are down 2-0, despite a great start from Garrett Crochet. Listen, he's only given up 2 runs, one of which was a leadoff home run by Jackson Chourio, the rising star for the Brewers, and he has been locking things down ultimately, from top to bottom. We just haven't seen the Red Sox offense pull through, and they have been quiet over the past 2 games, their weekend series versus the Orioles. But it was an easy matchup coming in versus Chad Patrick. So a bottom 7, 2-0 in favor of the Brewers. The Cubs are at home. They are up 2-1 over the Rockies. And as you said, the Orioles just jumped out to a 5-0 lead over the Cardinals. And, I was not sold on the Cardinals. Just overall, I'm not sold on Eric Fedde. And again, we have a full slate of games coming up. Anything you want to touch on for these 4 o'clock games, which are about to start? We have Blue Jays at the Rangers. Rangers are -136 on the money line at home. Jake DeGrom on the mound taking on Kevin Gausman. We have the Royals at home, -116 for them. Michael Lorenzen taking on Nick Martinez of the Cincinnati Reds, and then we have the Mets. They are big, minus 275 home favorites. Holmes on the mound taking on Adrian Hauser of the Chicago White Sox. Do you have any action in these games that you want to touch on?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at all of these games, I do think there are playable spots. Now, you look at the Toronto Blue Jays, and their struggles are coming off that terrible loss versus the Tampa Bay Rays yesterday. This team continues to let me down, at least as a fan, right? You look at Toronto, they're just not getting the wins that they should be able to get, and they're getting blown out in some of these games, but Texas is having their struggles as well. It's hard to trust either of them. Kevin Gausman, though, I do think if you're looking at the Toronto Blue Jays, you look at them in those first 5 innings. We have seen the lineup of Toronto not be able to hit DeGrom in the games they've seen him thus far in his career. But I do think at some point in this first 5 innings, someone is going to hit him here. So looking at the Toronto Blue Jays in the first 5 innings, you can take them straight up on that money line at plus 130. Now, you're going to have that faith in Kevin Gausman to limit the bats of the Rangers, but the Rangers have been struggling out there. Kevin Gausman is just being hot or cold, so it's really hard to know what we're going to get out of him. He's rolling in here with a 4.03 ERA. So I think he can do enough in this one. Give me the Toronto Blue Jays first 5 on the money line at plus 130. Then when we look at the Chicago White Sox and the New York Mets, I have a hard time really backing the Mets hard in this one just because they're coming off that series versus the Dodgers. So we saw them versus the Dodgers get that nice win. We got off to a really hot start in that first inning. If you're riding with a Yurfie or even the over 1.5 runs in the first inning between the Dodgers and the Mets yesterday, you were able to get 3 runs. We had 2 out of the Mets and 1 out of the Dodgers. And that game actually finished 3-1, which is crazy. Mets being able to get the win. With the quick turnaround here, I do think if you're looking at the White Sox, I wouldn't take them straight up on the money line in the first 5, but I do think this could be a nice spot to just look at the first 5 between these two to stay to the under until the Mets kind of like get their bats back hitting. Tom, I don't know why that was such a mouthful to say. But I will look at the first 5. I'm going to look at the first 5 under 4.5 runs. I do think we'll get off to that slower start between these two teams. So that's where I'm going with those games. You know, we got the Cincinnati Reds and the Kansas City Royals as well. I'm looking for the Royals to be able to hit Martinez. I think if you want to target anyone, Bobby Witt Jr. has been strong, great power hitter out here, and he's been able to hit Martinez before. For the Cincinnati Reds, you look at Martinez on the road, 0-3 on the road and 5 starts, and that ERA is a 4.18, while Lorenzen coming out here for the Kansas City Royals has really been strong at home, 2-0 home with a 0.95 ERA. So give me the Royals. I'd look at the Royals first 5. I'd look at the Royals for the full game to be able to get it done. And maybe the under too, Tom. You look at this one, and I do think both bullpens have been pretty solid. I don't see this being a really high-scoring game here. We've got another 7.5. So I know people don't like touching the 7.5 unders, but today, Memorial Day, I also want to get your take, Tom. I got to ask, Memorial Day, any chance these home teams just want to get home for barbecues in this spot here, right? Like, are they going to finish up the game fast?
I mean, we would like to see that. I actually don't mind the under take there. It's a little bit of weather issues out in Kansas City. It's cooler in the 60s, some rain, some wind blowing in. So I do like the under on that. It is interesting, you know, like teams traveling on holidays. It is something that, you know, you don't want to necessarily like have to handicap, but it is part of the process on whether it be a Christmas Day for football, basketball, whatever it might be. Same with Thanksgiving. Like there are other external factors at play, and seeing some of that come to fruition can certainly come to you know, betting lines, whatever it might be. For one of the 7 o'clock games, I will say I am on the Twins money line, just straight up on the money line. I don't think Chris Paddock, the pitcher for the Twins, is phenomenal, but Zach Littell on the other side for the Rays is also not good. So I'm taking the Twins at plus 106. Also, some of this has to do with the fact that the Twins right now, what is it, a 5-game winning streak for them? A 5-game winning streak for the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm of the belief that baseball is a highly variable sport. It's a weird stuff happens. You know, we have players that go 4 for 4 with multiple home runs, multiple RBIs, and the team still lose the game. We have pitchers like today with Garrett Crochet, who has 11 strikeouts, is absolutely dominating the Brewers, and yet the Brewers are winning that game 2-0. So I like buying into the variance, and I just don't expect teams to go on long winning streaks and or long losing streaks. So we're getting plus money with the Twins on the money line. I will be taking them. That game's at 7, 7-10, whatever it might be. So Twins money line at plus 106. As you said, a big win yesterday for them going up against the Blue Jays. Your Blue Jays, I'll take the Twins coming in off a loss to take down the Rays and end that winning streak. So we're starting with some baseball. We will certainly touch on the NBA playoff game tonight between the Thunder and the T-Wolves. We will touch on the NHL playoff game, a potential closeout between the Carolina Hurricanes down 0-3 taking on the Florida Panthers. We'll touch on all of that. We will have guests along the way. Again, it's myself, Tom Vecchio, and Joe Madden from now until 8 p.m. going through all the day's action. We can touch on some WNBA. There's some big injury news with Caitlin Clark. She's going to be out for multiple weeks. Who's going to step up in her absence? That changes the MVP market because she was the favorite after some strong starts to the season, strong games to start the season from her. We will touch on all that. We're coming up against a break right now. Stay tuned from now until 8 p.m. right here on SportsGrid for In-Game Live. Myself, Tom Vecchio, Joe Madden. We will have all the day of sports. We'll be right back.
Into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
What's going on? Welcome back to In-Game Live Game Day. My name is Tom Vecchio. I'm here with Joe Madden from now until 8 p.m. Bring you through the entire day of sports. We have MLB underway. We have MLB coming up. We have the NBA playoffs tonight. We have the NHL playoffs tonight. Let's turn to the NBA playoffs tonight. Timberwolves, they're at home, 3-point underdogs, 219 total. Joe, we saw an incredible performance from the Timberwolves, who were down 0-2. Massive scoring in Game 3. What's your initial thoughts for this? Do you have any specific plays, player props, whatever it might be for Game 4 tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to stay off the side. I want to look for a live bet in this game. Looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves, sitting right at that 3-point underdog here at home, I would love to see them be able to keep this within that number, but I think it might be a little bit too light. But laying 3 with OKC, I just am not comfortable with it at the moment. We saw that great Game 3 out of the Minnesota Timberwolves where it seemed everyone was shooting so much better. So ultimately, I'd love to see that live line of 7.5 that we were getting for the Minnesota Timberwolves out there on the road in OKC. Now, I know they weren't able to cover that spread in OKC, but I do have faith in them to keep it within that sort of number here at home in this game. Looking at the players that I want to circle, I'm going to go back to Julius Randle. We know he had that terrible game in Game 2, but he did bounce back in Game 3, nice and solid. I'm going to roll with him over the 18.5 points. Your light juice on that at -114, but you look at him in Game 3, he was able to put 24 points on the board, 9 of 15, and 2 of 5 from deep. So I do think those balls are going to fly from deep for him as well. And then on the other side for OKC, SGA, I love him coming out here nice and strong. Now, you could take his points or you could take his rebounds, but I'm going to look at those assists today. 6.5 seems light for his assists. Now, you will have to lay the juice. I'm seeing between -132 and -140, so shop your lines out there for SGA for those over 6.5 assists. But he's averaging right around this number, and I do think he will be able to get them today. Here versus the Timberwolves, I would look for Jalen Williams to really step up, be able to get those points out there for OKC, and that's why I'm going to stay off SGA for the points, even though we know he has the capacity of getting there. But Tom, I'm going to play a long shot as well in this game. I think this is going to be a tight game when it comes to the end of that fourth quarter. I'm going to take the overtime bet at +1,500, and we know with the overtime bet, you would be looking more so at this game to go over that total. So I do lean to the over in this one because I do think it has a chance of being tight in the fourth, but then someone wins this, right around that 5-point range. So that's why I'm hesitant of the 3 right now. What about yourself?
Okay, so I certainly like that. I would love to see an overtime game just from a viewership perspective, but I want to say that OKC bounces back. They're too good of a team to be blown out by 20, 30 points, as we saw in that most recent game. Like, they are a dominant team. They have consistently blown out teams when they win. We saw it, obviously, not the first round so much. That wasn't a real series versus Memphis, but they handled business versus the Nuggets. They learned along the way, is the kind of take I've had over the past few weeks, that they were learning how to win close games because, the MO for the Thunder was they either won by 20, 30 points or they were losing close games. They found ways to win close games versus the Nuggets. And now, after a massive loss versus the Timberwolves in Game 3, I'm expecting them to bounce back. So I'm interested in SGA, 8.5 points in the first quarter. They have to start off strong. It has to be him. And then ultimately, I've been considering going to a Timberwolves team total under just because their offense was too efficient in Game 3. And listen, 110 points is not what we should be seeing from an inferior offensive team in the Timberwolves. I think the Thunder will kind of clamp things down on defense. So it's sitting at 108.5 right now. I am considering the under on that. We have time before. I know we'll have Adam Kaufman on a little bit later, get his thoughts on this game. I want to bounce some things off of him and see what he's looking at because I know he's very interested in the Thunder today. When it comes to the NHL, we are dealing with a 3-0 series in favor of the Florida Panthers. This over the Carolina Hurricanes. The Panthers are -176 at home right now, 5.5 over/under. This series, Joe, could not be more one-sided. It has been Panthers, Panthers, Panthers from the start. The Hurricanes have, I want to say they've been embarrassed. It has been a terrible, terrible performance from the Hurricanes. What are your thoughts on this? Because we were talking pre-show. yeah, the Hurricanes could win one game, but there's no shot they are coming back in this series. Absolutely no shot.
Yeah, I really don't see them being able to come back either. And it's really brutal for this team. You look at how many conference finals that they have lost is now 15 straight losses, and they're a better team than they showed up. Now, they did have an easier path, and I'll keep saying that, going through the New Jersey Devils and the Washington Capitals, and no disrespect to those teams, but it's not a team like this Florida Panthers team that really, they are smelling blood in the water right now, and I do think they come out and they just dominate this game like we've seen in game 1, 2, and 3s. Now, one thing we did see in game 3, the Carolina Hurricanes were able to win those faceoffs 55.9% of the time. They converted 2 of their 4 power play attempts, while the Florida Panthers didn't convert on any of their power plays, but still were able to get a nice big win. I'm looking for Florida to come out really strong in that third period, where the Carolina Hurricanes in the first 3 have had those letdown spots, but Florida also start things off here. I'm looking at the Florida Panthers for the first period puck line, laying a half a goal at plus 142. And then I'll jump to that third period and I'll look at the third period puck line as well. For the Florida Panthers, coming in at plus 120, laying that half a goal. I do think this all comes down to Bobrovsky. Give me Bobrovsky for his save shots on goal. That number coming in at 24.5 at plus 110. Now, I know Bobrovsky hasn't faced that many. 24.5, they only had 25 shots in that last game. But I do think you're going to get that step up of Sebastian Aho, especially after Brenda Moore did everything except for say his name out there, saying like he is not contributing enough. They're only getting production out of their 4 young rookies. So look for these guys to step up. Him, Chesnikov. I think those shots on goal are coming out of Carolina, but it's Bobrovsky standing on his head. I think he faces at least 35 shots in this game. We know Bobrovsky is not going to let that many in.
Yeah, I was about to say Bobrovsky total saves. I'm seeing at 23.5. You mentioned in 24. Always shop for the best lines available. We're coming up against a break right now. We will discuss more of this. Hit the NBA, hit some MLB. Stay tuned.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
He's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not
a 7th-round
There were
pick
2
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
What's going on? Welcome back to In-Game Live Game Day. My name is Tom Vecchio. I'm here with Joe Madden until 8 p.m. We have some action across the MLB Diamond. Some things are changing. The Red Sox just pushed across a run. It is the top of the eighth with one out. They are down 2-1. Cubs are up 3-1 over the Rockies. The Orioles are still up 5-2 over the Cardinals. We have we touched on the Blue Jays Rangers game right before it started off, and we did see a home run from Dalton Varsho off of Jacob deGrom. Blue Jays are up 1-0 going to the bottom of the second. The Reds are up 1-0 over the Royals. It is the bottom of the first. Bottom of the first in Mets White Sox as well. And that is the end of the top of the eighth for the Red Sox. So they get across the one. It is still 2-1 Brewers in that. Last few innings for that and the Cubs. We were just talking about the Panthers taking on the Carolina Hurricanes tonight, and Joe, you mentioned the Sergei Bobrovsky saves at 24.5. I'm seeing it at 23.5. I certainly do like that. It is juiced for me at -132. I believe you said it was at +102 for Bobrovsky. And this has been the Hurricanes' calling card since Rod Brind'Amour has taken over. You know, one of the underlying metrics that they are very strong at is Corsi, which are, total shot attempts, and they are constantly pouring in shot attempts and shots on goal when it comes to the opposing team. And we saw that in the Devil series, we saw that in a Cap series specifically. And yes, those are two inferior teams compared to the Panthers, but Joe, this is do or die tonight. Any shot is a good shot. So I love Bobrovsky piling up saves tonight because at a certain point, the Hurricanes, you can't settle into an offense, right? You can't settle in, okay, let's get into the cycle. Let's move the puck. Let's take some good. No, any shot is a good shot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're not going to have the ability to play pretty out there, right? Like you look at Toronto. Toronto's one of those teams that they pass that puck around, they get those plays set up before they try to execute. Well, Carolina can't do that tonight. You're absolutely right. They need to come out. They need to come out firing. So there's a lot of things we can look at. I do think, before I forget, the block shot market here for Seth Jones is 3+ block shots for the Florida Panthers. We know these guys are putting themselves in front of the puck. He's coming in at +200. I think it is a really strong way to look at him. But if we want to start looking at those shots on goal. Now, the shots on goal market can be hard because we can look at it, we can watch it, we can think it looks like a shot on goal and the books just don't register it. So you always have to be careful. But I do think there's some playmakers here for Carolina that you can take a shot on the 3+ shots on goal. Now, we look at Sebastian Aho in that first game of the series. I believe he got 6 shots on goal. And he needs to come out that strong. Rod Brind'Amour has called out these veteran players, saying they're not playing at the level that they should be at. They're not wanting it enough. And you've got to think it's got to make him react in a way where he knows that he's headed off for vacation pretty quick here, but they want to go out with some pride. They don't want to be swept again. Just terrible numbers with them in the conference finals here. So Sebastian Aho for 3+ shots on goal, you're actually getting plus money at +130. Now, one thing you can look at here on FanDuel is parlaying these shots on goal props, but you have to take the same numbers, Tom. So you can't look at like a 2+ for one guy and a 3+ for another on FanDuel, but I would look at Sebastian Aho for the 3+ and Seth Jones for the 3+, both coming in at +130. You can parlay that and it's +360. So I think those two guys, and then I would go down to Taylor Hall. I think we're going to get a huge step up out of Taylor Hall in this one. He's coming in for 3+ shots at +250. I wouldn't parlay Taylor Hall. I would leave him out, but I would look at Taylor Hall as well.
Yeah, that's it's always tough, what we have seen from a player, and now obviously the circumstances are different because it is an elimination game for them. So, I think Taylor Hall was a great pickup for them. He was great in the first 2 series overall. One of the ones I was looking at for Bobrovsky, just kind of a roundabout way, there's one under the game special is Bobrovsky to have 6+ saves in each period. That's at -115, which is different than him having, obviously, over 23.5. He could have 20 saves theoretically in one period, and he could go over that, before the second period. But 6+ saves in each period, I think, is interesting because this implies that Carolina has to come out strong and then has to be maintained throughout the entire game. So I'm on over 23.5 for Bobrovsky. That's for the entire game. But, maybe if we get some guests on here throughout the rest of the day, we'll have Cam Stewart on here. I want to get his takes on the NHL. Does he think that Bobrovsky could have 6+ in each period? We'll talk to him about that. We are coming up against another break. The first half hour is done again. Myself, Tom Vecchio, and Joe Madden, we're here until 8 p.m., bringing through all the day's action. We just went through some NHL with the Hurricanes taking on the Panthers. We briefly touched on the NBA. with the Timberwolves taking on the Thunder. Adam Kaufman is coming up. We will talk to him about that. And then, of course, we'll circle back to all the MLB action as we are sweating out a couple bets that are in-game live. Stay tuned. SportsGrid in-game live. We'll be back after this.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side
Yes.
with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't
the
that
best
it wasn't as
quarterback
good as
prospect
Quinn
they've ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers'
the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
I
It is
just told you
incorrect.
he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm
you're
buying
doing
him
your
because
thing now
I
when you
expect him to
double
have a
down on a
decent
tape
season. No, I'm
that
not
is
doing
incorrect
that. The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round
there
pick
were two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback
Stop
recruits
it.
in the
Stop
history of
it.
the sport.
Quinn
Vince
Ewers couldn't
Young
even play at
and
Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young
State.
and Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
What's going on? And welcome back to In-Game Live, a game day. Myself, Tom Vecchio, along with Joe Madden, up until 8 p.m. We're taking through the day of sports. We touched on some baseball, some games in action now, some of them closing out soon. Brewers up 2-1, Cubs up 3-1, Orioles up 5-2. The 4 o'clock games have just gotten started. We touched on the NHL. We briefly touched on the NBA. And now to expand on tonight's game in the NBA, welcome in Adam Kaufman, host right here on SportsGrid, someone that I talk with nearly daily. Not just via text, but via phone. We talk daily about what we're doing while we're playing. Adam, it's finally good to talk to you for the first time today, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes degenerates need to come together and actually hash things out by phone. And so that's what we do.
Do you guys have like a scheduled time for this? Like, I need more info on this.
You know what, Joe? It depends on the slate. It entirely depends on the slate. You know, if it's, for instance, like a day like today where baseball starts at 1 Eastern, we're going to talk earlier in the day. If nothing gets going of note before, say, 6, 7 o'clock, it's probably mid to late afternoon. It's entirely, much like everything that all three of us and everyone behind the scenes and probably anyone out there watching and listening, is used to. It's our lives revolve around the sports calendar.
Right. So we are dependent on when the slate starts. So sometimes it's early in the morning in football season. I mean, there were late nights up until 2 a.m. that we were talking about what we're expecting for the next day, obviously, as we did many shows together throughout the NFL season. Yeah. But regardless of that, NBA playoff game tonight, Timberwolves at home, 3-point home underdogs, 219 total. I'm expecting the Thunder to come out strong. I also have been talking about the Timberwolves team total under 108.5. I know what your general thoughts are on this game, but you want to expand on anything? You want to give the people some plays, whatever it might be?
Sure. So this game, it interests me, and I know I do a lot of the narrative street, tell yourself a story, how's the game going to play out, spiel. People who have heard me or seen me on this network are used to that by now. This and last night really fall into a very specific category where if I don't see a certain outcome, I am genuinely going to be surprised. Last night with the Pacers up 2-0 in that series, even going back to Indy, I expected New York to win that game. Now, I will not say I expected it to happen the way it happened when they were getting their doors blown off and losing by 20 points. I was like, I guess it is the Pacers' night. The Knicks are going to be dead. They're going to be like the Carolina Hurricanes, just throttled in all the important games, it feels like, and this series is over. And then obviously they stage yet another unreal playoff comeback and cut the series deficit in half and have an opportunity to even things up, potentially to head back to New York. In this one here tonight, I felt the Timberwolves were the right side in Game 3 similarly, but I never in a million years would have expected Oklahoma City to not even show up for the game, to lay down in the way that it did, to where, if you played a whole lot of unders in that game, you were cashing. It was embarrassing. In fact, I'm not sure embarrassing is a strong enough word, what we saw out of the Thunder in that Game 3. And that in mind, even though they are up 2-1, even though they have largely been the dominant team in this series and obviously throughout this postseason, I think we get a huge bounce back tonight out of OKC in the face of what we just saw last time out. And I think it starts right away. I'm on OKC to win this game. I'm very comfortable laying the points because it's a very short number. You're looking at 2.5, 3 out there, maybe a 3.5. But, I think dive into the derivative market, Tom and Joe. Start earlier. First quarter spread, first half spread. These lines are small. They're thin. I'm looking at it on FanDuel right now. First half. If you want to say screw the points, just go with the money line. You're obviously paying the juice, minus 134, but it's minus 1.5. When I was looking at it last night, it was minus half a point. So you were saying, okay, just win the first half. As far as the first quarter goes, and I expect it to be obviously that much smaller. The spread is, there you go, half a point. So minus 122. So again, OKC to win the first, win the half, ultimately win the game. I have not been impressed with this Timberwolves team, with obviously this Game 3 being a notable exception. I think the Thunder rise to the occasion, despite the fact they're playing a road game.
Okay, Adam. So with you looking at the Thunder being able to bounce back in this one, what players do you have circled then to come out nice and strong?
I think there are a few guys that you could look at, and just to pull up FanDuel to have the most current player prop information available to us here. It starts at the beginning, obviously, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP. If I like OKC to have a dominant game, especially a response game, and maybe even win this thing convincingly, let alone just barely clearing a 3-point spread, I got to look toward the most valuable player, who was terrible in Game 3. Really. Barely did anything, didn't crack 20 points. This is a guy who routinely, at the bare minimum, is getting 20, if not 25, and oftentimes 30. So, going at 30 plus for him or over 30.5, I'm very comfortable with that. And, in part, not quite to the same degree, like he would be the first guy I'd look at, but next on the list is his running mate, Jalen Williams, another all-star on this team at, it's 20.5. I'd probably look to 20 plus. I wouldn't even be against maybe a 30 plus SGA Williams 20 plus parlay. Put those two together, get a nice number on it, and I could price it out, see what it looks like. But you want to go over 20.5 and get the 21 plus, I think that's fine as well. From there, I don't want to mess around with the bigs. I know Holmgren had an awesome game back in OKC. He's been a little quieter since in terms of scoring the basketball. He's just not a guy that I want to lean on for points. I do think Gobert and Randall, to a lesser degree, they can cause some troubles on the other side for the bigs. So I'm not looking at obviously a Hartenstein either. Shout out to my guy Prop Bomb, who put this one on my radar as a look really worth thinking about. How about Alex Caruso? Only 7.5 is where his line is. Only played 10 minutes, I think it was, in that blowout last time out. If the game is close, he's going to play at least double that. And they're daring him to shoot. He's going to get open looks. you're not asking for too much for him to get to 8 points. So those are 3 guys on the OKC side that certainly have my attention. We could talk Minnesota as well if you'd like.
Right. Just a quick thought on SGA. I was under the same belief where, like, hey, they got to get started early. Would you consider an 8.5 over for the first quarter points, or is that you're not going to touch it? Just say, just give me the points, 25, 30 plus, whatever it might be for the entire game. And just if it happens in the first quarter, so be it. But I was considering it.
So I'm going to throw this back at you with your own words. You and I, when we were having one of our conversations yesterday, talking about baseball, we were talking about the Yankees game, and it felt like a really appealing first 5 situation. I said, all right, what should we do here? Should we bet the first 5 or should we take the full game? You said, I don't want to mess around with the first 5. I want the full game because I don't want to, lose any Aaron Judge at bats. Sort of the same thing with SGA. I don't want to lose a huge second, third, maybe even strong finish fourth quarter on the way to getting to that full game total if he does get off to a slow start, as we have seen at points in this series. Remember first half of game 1 when he started like 2 for 13 in the first half, and most of his points were at the free throw line. He had, I think, 11 points at that point. So yeah, I get the look, and I support the thinking. It's just if I'm choosing between the two, I'd much rather the full game.
Okay, understandable there, Adam. If you are looking at anyone from the Timberwolves, is there anyone that you can look at their prop and think they're going to be able to go over it, or are you fading some of these players out there on the court?
So again, I got to shout out my guy Prop Bomb because I loved this one. This wouldn't, like Caruso, I could have come up with on my own. This one I never would have thought of, and he's not on every book. It's on MGM, it's on Caesars, a couple other places. I wish it were on FanDuel. I'd bet more there. How about Terrence Shannon Jr. over 3.5 points? 3.5 points. Chris Finch said after the game, he's an athlete. He's going to get run. We're going to see him more. This dude is a flamethrower off the bench. Even if he only plays 10 minutes, guys, or 7 minutes, he's going to take a shot per minute. I guarantee it. So I like him to go over points, just as an example.
I'm sticking around. We'll be back right after this in-game live.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
He's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not,
a 7th-round
There were
pick
2
who didn't even play
rated
good.
quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
What's going on? Welcome back. SportsGrid right here, in-game live, game day. Myself, Tom Vecchio, and Joe Madden bring you up until 8 p.m. We have Adam Kaufman on talking some NBA. You probably don't want to get into too much NHL action, but when it comes to tomorrow's Game 4 between the Pacers and the Knicks, again, we briefly touched on it. You had your thoughts that the Knicks would come away with win, but initial look for this Game 4 coming up. Do you have any players that you're circling? Do you have a game script that you expect to play out for this one?
So the line right now, obviously it opened at 2.5. I'm looking at it. It looks like there might be a rogue 1.5 out there on ESPN, but everything else is 2.5, with obviously the Knicks being dogs in this game in Indy. I'm still sort of feeling this one out a little bit, guys. I think the Knicks doing what they did, like it would be a rollover thought if I was wrong and the Knicks lost that game, which obviously they almost did. I'd be like, man, they're not going to go down the sweep, are they? The Knicks, they got to fight. Now I realize the logic. You don't want to go back home down 3-1. You want to do everything you can to get the win. But I just don't think you're going to see quite the same intensity out of New York as you did in what felt like more of a must-win Game 3 there in Indy. So, I think I realize they're favored, and this is sort of a lazy analysis. I'm just sort of like giving you the gut, right? But I feel like Indy bounces back. Halliburton's dad in the building. I feel like they win this game. I do. It doesn't, and probably win it by margin because again, we're talking about such a short spread. But in terms of getting into the, first quarter this, first half this, and what's the flow of the game, this series has become impossible to predict in that way for me because again, I know a lot of people were on New York first half money line yesterday. I thought that was a great play. I thought that was an even stronger full game play, and they were down by 13 points at the half, and on their way to it getting worse before it got better. So this Knicks team, there's a lot of Jekyll and Hyde there. I think that in terms of players, you have to continue to look at Jalen Brunson. Clearly, he is, if the game is close, and I expect it will be close, he's the guy that's going to get much of the work there in the fourth quarter. One of the X factors is going to be, can he stay out of foul trouble? He didn't yesterday. Can Karl Anthony Towns, who was invisible in that game until the fourth quarter when he went nuclear in helping them in that comeback, can he stay out of foul trouble? Also, is there going to be a change to the starting lineup? You'd think Tibbs will look at it and say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Josh Hart, he still played 35 minutes, whatever it was, but he came off the bench, and it was Mitchell Robinson who got more reduced minutes, who started. They wanted to start this game with more of that dual big setup, and a lot of people actually went, despite the early rebounding advantages that he had in the series, clearing the 7.5 line. A lot of people, including me, leapt at the under 9.5, and he only had 6. So, is that something that repeats itself? So I just think in this game, and yeah, the Neesmith injury, although he returned, there were a lot of things off of Game 3 that make Game 4 to me a little bit more unpredictable. That's one that I might be just a little less myself, a little less Cam Stewart, and sit back and kind of absorb a lot of the game and not just be, mindlessly firing it away at a lot of different things.
Now, with that being said, Adam, that total sitting at 220.5. If you think the Pacers come out here and win it by margin in this game, would you be looking at an over? Because we know how strong they have been at hitting those threes, Tyrese Halliburton throwing them up. Or would you look at this game and say, well, the Knicks, maybe we see that one go under the 220.5. Any thoughts?
So I'm just, as you're talking, I was just pulling up the team totals because I want to see where Indy falls exactly in that. So we're looking at, let's see, for the Pacers, home team wave total for FanDuel, 111.5. Yeah, I'd go over on the Pacers team total as a bigger bet. I'd probably sprinkle the full game over because I certainly think those two things are correlated. I think if you believe the Knicks are going to win this game, and I realize what we just saw in the previous game, but in a general sense, given the pace that Indiana likes to go at versus more of the slow, methodical game that New York prefers to play anyway, not to say that the Knicks can't play at the Pacers level. Obviously, we've seen it here at this point. But in a general correlated sense, I think you're looking at an under if you believe the Knicks are going to win and an over if you believe the Pacers are going to win. So if I'm sitting here telling you that I think Indy wins, as I do, I'd go over on a sprinkle on the full game total. I would make probably, view that as, let's say, a half unit play, and maybe the full unit play is going over on the Pacers team total, because they shot miserably in game 3 and that thing still came down to the wire. And I expect some of that to bounce back.
So I'm totally on board with the Pacers having a bit of a rebound game, but between the Nesmith injury and he did return. Outside of Halliburton, would you be looking to Siakam to carry the load on offense if we're not going to be getting the consistent scoring from Nesmith, who granted had a phenomenal first 2 games of series, obviously especially game 1, but is there someone else you'd expect to step up in a kind of a rebounding type of, not rebounding physical rebounds, but I'm talking the team bouncing back type of way?
Not really, honestly, because, just scanning the board to see what the point totals sit at. Maybe Miles Turner going for 15 plus would be somebody that I would consider. Nembhard in a bounce back. He only had 9 yesterday. His line's sitting 11.5. Matherin's not a guy that's getting a lot of run in this series. I don't want to go to him. You mentioned Halliburton. That's where I would go first, because, again, I just think this time of year I'd prefer to lean into the stars if I believe that a certain team has the advantage in a game. I think it's the best players that are going to carry you there. I recognize that Siakam was a 20-point-per-guy game during the regular season, had a 40-point game very nearly earlier on in the series, but I faded him in game 3. I didn't think, kind of like Julius Randle, the ups and downs of this series between the Wolves and Thunder. I think that Siakam, how many builders, Tom, have we lost because we had Siakam at 10 points and he finishes with 8 or 9? He's just not a guy that I think is, incredibly dependable within the offense. Every once in a while, and you'll know it right out of the chute, you're going to get the Siakam game where he's shooting like crazy. And then there are other games where he's got 5 shots at halftime and he's driving you up a wall. So, with his total sitting at 19.5, I'm not playing the over. If anything, it's under or pass for me.
Yeah, under or pass for Siakam. We're coming up against a break right now. Thanks to Adam Kaufman for being here, talking some NBA. We'll be back after this.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
He's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not
a 7th-round pick.
There were 2 perfectly rated quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Chiefs Chargers in Brazil on Friday on YouTube. They're going to give everyone that game for free. They're so generous because the rest of the season they're going to fleece you for all your money.
That's one, Scott. That division, to me, based on what's happened to the Chiefs the last couple seasons, that division, the AFC West, could be up for grabs here. I know Chiefs fans think I'm probably out of my mind.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
What's going on? Welcome back to SportsGrid in-game live game day. I vastly disappointed. There's nothing else to say. As I talked about at the beginning portion of the show, as I mentioned, every day I tweet out this hit parlay that I do, 2 hitters just to get a hit, get somewhere around even money. The Red Sox are now in the top of the 9th with 2 outs. Jalen Duran just got a hit to bring up Rafael Devers, who I have for a hit today, and he was intentionally walked. He already has 2 walks under his belt, so I want to say he was seeing the ball well today. 2 walks and a strikeout. He comes up top of the 9th, 2 outs. Chance to be a hero for me, and is intentionally walked. This is what we've talked about, you and me, going back months at this point, where we just need a show, a morning show where we can just hash out and vent the bad things that have happened, where I want to say I was spot on with the matchup, and I get nothing from him because he's been walked 3 times now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That is the worst kind of beat out there, when you should have had a hit out of him, and for them just to turn around and walk him every time, it's like someone slipped a note, right? And said, look, Tom Vecchio's on this. Like, please just walk him every time. So I don't know. Maybe Adam's slipping notes. He knows your plays. Maybe that's what's happening, Tom, because that just seems too crazy.
And now the Red Sox just fly out to end the game. So Brewers win that 3-2. The Sox were minus 160-ish on the money line, minus 164, obviously with Crochet on the mound. So the Brewers come away with the win. The under hits because it ends 3-2. And now we are heading to the next set of games. It's bottom 7 in Orioles Cardinals. That's 5-2. Blue Jays are up 2-1. The Reds are giving it to the Royals right now, up 4-0, and Mets still scoreless with the White Sox 0-0 in the top of the 4th. 6 o'clock games coming up. Dodgers, they're coming off of a loss last night on Sunday Night Baseball. They're taking on the Guardians. They're minus 176 on the road. Yamamoto taking on Gavin Williams, also at 7. Twins, Rays. I talked about the Twins money line. It was minus 106 a little while ago when we got things started. It is minus 106. It was plus 106. It's plus 100 now. The Twins taking on the Rays. Joe, we talked about the Twins, Rays. We haven't talked about the Dodgers, Guardians too much. Do you have any plays in this game?
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the Dodgers coming off that game versus the Mets. Now, while I thought the Mets might get off to a slow start with the Dodgers coming off that loss and starting Yamamoto here, I do think they're going to come out nice and strong. Now, Yamamoto's been really solid out there on the road. He's got a 1.86 ERA, and I do think he's going to really limit the bats here of Cleveland. I'm looking for Cleveland, though. Williams, decent numbers in his home starts. His home starts, 5 home starts. He's gone 3-1 with a 3.47 ERA. So I'm looking for this full game to stay to that under. And I know that's always terrifying when you're looking at the LA Dodgers. One of my favorite bets normally is the LA Dodgers, that Yurfie, the first 5, for them to be able to put those runs on the board. I just don't see it coming in this one. Now, again, it's a 7.5. I played a lot of 7.5s to those unders today, Tom. It's coming in at minus 120 to the under, so you're going to have to lay the juice. If you just want to take Cleveland out of it, I don't blame you, or like the Dodgers total out of it and just look at Cleveland's team total. It's something I did flirt with. So Cleveland's team total, I believe it is at a 3.5. Let me just double check that here. But I do think that would be a great way to look. No, it's sitting at a 2.5 at plus 118. That's what I wanted to double check. So it's a low number here, right? So I would rather take the 7.5, keep it to the under at minus 120. I just don't see a lot of runs, especially with how the bullpens have been doing. Solid bullpens on both sides for both of these teams. So I think we've got, that 3-4 style of game, and that puts us right there at 7, and we got a total of 7.5. One thing I did want to note here, I'm shocked that the Kansas City Royals haven't been able to get on the board as of yet, Tom. Bottom of the 3rd, and I did think Martinez would give up some runs. Now the Reds are up 4-0 right now. You can grab the Kansas City Royals plus 3.5 at plus 110. I don't think they get completely blown out of the water in this game. So we should be going into the top of the 4th here. They have every opportunity. There's tons of time in this game to get back in it. Because of that, if you like them to get back in it, got to look at that 8.5 because the Reds are hitting today. The over 8.5, minus 146. Little juicy, but for the Royals on the run line.
Yeah, it's also interesting to note that the Nick Martinez, through 3 innings, hasn't allowed a hit, hasn't allowed a walk. So he is pitching a great game to start. Again, going to the top of the fourth, like Joe said, 4-0 Reds. Again, we are going through today's slate of games between baseball. We touch on the NBA just there with Adam Kaufman. We'll get back to that with other guests throughout the day. We'll touch on the NHL, and then we'll continue running through the MLB board, and we will continue, or we will soon touch on some WNBA news with Caitlin Clark and the injury. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Tigers, 31-17. Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where two of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're back right here on SportsGrid, in-game live, game day. First hour is done. Myself, Tom Vecchio, along with Joe Madden, bring you up until 8 p.m. Thanks to Adam Kaufman for being here, talking some NBA. We'll, of course, have other guests over the next few hours to talk some NBA and some NHL. Just a quick recap on what's going on across the MLB. Diamond Orioles still up 5-2, top the 8th over the Cardinals. We have seen the Rangers put through a run, a solo shot from Wyatt Langford. They are down 2-1 to the Toronto Blue Jays. That game is in the top of the 5th. That game's cruising by. For the Reds, they are still up 4-0 over the Royals. And again, we have seen a phenomenal start from Nick Martinez. That game live total is 9.5. And then the White Sox, surprisingly, just took a 1-0 lead over the New York Mets with a sac fly from Andrew Benintendi. So if you're betting player props, all that is important. The White Sox with the lead there, still plus 130 on the money line, minus 166 for the Mets. We touched on some of these later games. We touched on some NBA, some NHL. From an in-game opportunity, Joe, would you bet on the White Sox, or would you lay the juice with the Mets knowing that they're the better team and expect them to come back?
Well, they are the better team, Tom, but my biggest fear coming into this game and why I took the first 5 to the under was because the Mets are coming off that series versus the Dodgers. They got a nice win yesterday, and I always look at teams where they have letdown spots, and taking on the Chicago White Sox the day after in a day game when they had a night game versus the Dodgers and got a win just isn't a spot that I'm comfortable backing a team like the Mets or any team in that situation, especially when you had to lay so much juice. They would have come into this thinking, we just beat the Dodgers. Now we have to take on the White Sox. This is going to be easy. And the Chicago White Sox capitalizing on this one early. Now, can the Mets come back and get the win? absolutely they can. And if you like them to do so, so do the books. It's minus 166. I wouldn't jump because it could be the White Sox day just to get the win in this game. We know how terrible this team is, though. So I think, Tom, if you didn't take them pregame, didn't take that chance, like I wish I did, I wouldn't take them now at plus 130 up around. Like I just can't get there. It's not enough value for me to jump in. If I was getting plus 250 on this team, yeah, that's the place I want to jump and put a little bit of money. But plus 130, I can't trust them enough. I've got the under 4.5 in the first 5 here.
Okay, so that is certainly looking good. And that's a good point to make where you say, oh, it's just they're plus 130 and they're winning. We're getting plus money. Why not take that? Like, it's a good point to make. If you weren't on a team or a situation to begin with, and then that changes in game, doesn't mean you need to be chasing that and then therefore trying to bet something, because the best number you had on the White Sox was the pregame number, and that has obviously changed. It was just plus 130, 133. It's all the way down to plus 112. Like, betting on the White Sox, a team that is not historically bad like the Rockies, but they're a terrible team. We don't want to be getting plus 112. You can get plus 112 on, like I said, the Twins earlier were plus 106. The Twins have been putting together a really, really solid May, and they're going up against the team with the Rays that I think are overachieving. So if you're going to get something that close to even money, you might as well just take it with the Twins. You could even say, even the Angels have been playing significantly better as of late. And, going up against the Yankees, you could take a shot on plus 146 rather than going to a plus 112 price for the White Sox. So certainly like that. And that's something that I think is not talked about enough. If you have a spot to bet it, doesn't mean you have to. If you've missed the pregame number, sometimes you just got to move on from that. So again, 5-2 for the Orioles, 2-1 for the Blue Jays over the Rangers, 4-0 Reds over Royals, 1-0 White Sox over Mets. So when it comes to the hit parlay that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the 2-player hit parlay, that is dead. We will likely see Lars Nootbaar get a hit for the Cardinals, as he was the other side of that. One thing I mentioned before the break was some WNBA news with Caitlin Clark. They announced that she has a hamstring strain. She's going to be out for a couple of weeks. And this changes things not only for the, going forward for the Indiana Fever. They have a game coming up on Tuesday, which we could be interested in some player props, but also comes down to the regular season MVP market. She was the favorite. She's now no longer the favorite. Nafisha Collier for the Minnesota Lynx is now the favorite at minus 180. Caitlin Clark has stepped back to plus 250, and Aja Wilson is at plus 750, which I do think is a bit of an interesting price. Joe, I know you don't bet too much at WNBA, but would you be looking to back Caitlin Clark now that she's going to be missing some time, but she's at plus 250?
I wouldn't not, right? Like a plus 250, Caitlin Clark, she's going to miss some time, but I do think when she gets back out on that court, she should be able to rebound nicely from this injury. And I do think she still will be able to get there. Now, the problem is with that, if we wait and we see how long this injury takes, we see her coming back out there, you're not going to get plus 250, right? So I would jump now if you do like Caitlin Clark. But looking further down the list, you could look at Stewart there. Stewart she's got great ability out there. I do think she's an absolute long shot to be able to get that. And you would have to hope that, Wilson doesn't come out like completely strong and that Caitlin Clark stays off the court for longer. But I don't know, Tom, at plus 250, I think it's worth a shot on Clark right now.
Yeah, also there's an argument to be made that you could wait, and if Aja Wilson and Collier, they both step up in this time that she's out, Caitlin Clark's price will get longer. And if she comes back from the injury, she's a little bit slow, just getting back in the rhythm of things, maybe you get a better number at a certain point. So will be interesting to see where things go moving forward. I assume a lot of people will be on Caitlin Clark's teammates, Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell, for points props in their game on Tuesday, and probably moving forward over the course of her injury when she's out, just because someone's going to be doing the scoring when she is gone. Not to say that they haven't been doing scoring, so it's been a pretty well-balanced offense to start the season. As for the rest of MLB, there's a couple games that we haven't touched on. Pirates, they are on the road taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks have Ryan Nelson on the mound. They are minus 200 at home. Taking on Andrew Heaney and the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are plus 168. Game is a 9.5 total. It is juiced a little bit to the under at minus 122. Joe, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think the juice is on the wrong side of this total. I'm looking for some runs to actually come in this one. So that 9.5 at plus 100 to the over is where my money is going to go. Now, I know Heaney has a solid ERA at 2.95, but I do think the Diamondbacks can come out nice and strong in this one. And then we're looking at Nelson, the righty out here. Higher ERA, 4.65. You know, we have seen some struggles out of the bats in some games here for the Pirates, but I think this is going to be one of those nights where we see those runs coming. It's Memorial Day. People are in the stands. You've got the home crowd behind the Diamondbacks here. I'm looking for a lot of runs, so give me the over 9.5.
Okay, certainly do like that. You know, the Pirates are a team that were struggling to get runs across the board really for the majority of May. They did have a nice weekend series against the Brewers. So getting some runs, I would say, let's call it the Diamondbacks do let's call it 75% of the work, getting it to over 9.5. Like they could put up 6 runs by themselves, 7 runs. You just need the Pirates to chip in 2, 3, maybe 4 runs because the Diamondbacks have had some struggles with their bullpen. So give us 3 runs from the Pirates. If the Pirates can get 3 runs, I certainly think this game goes way over because the Diamondbacks offense should be putting those up. I should be putting those runs up across the Pirates pitching staff. We have a couple other games we can get to between the Marlins and the Padres, the Yankees and the Angels. We will certainly touch on those. We're coming down to the end of some of these games that are ending. Cardinals, Orioles, we'll touch on that. We're already halfway through mid-fifth between the Blue Jays and the Rangers. We can recap that because, Joe, you said you had the first 5 for the Blue Jays. We are coming up against the break, so we'll touch on that, and then we'll see if the Royals can actually get a hit because currently we have Nick Martinez from the Reds with a perfect game so far. So we'll see what the Royals can bring, and of course we'll circle back to some NBA and some NHL with some other guests that are coming up. Coming up against the break right now. Stay tuned right here on Sports Grid. We'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
What's going on? Welcome back to In-Game Live Game Day right here on SportsGrid. We are running through the entire day of sports. Myself, Tom Vecchio, along with Joe Madden up until 8 p.m. Eastern. We've had some MLB action conclude. We have some MLB action starting off in another hour with some 6 p.m. games. And we are in the middle of a number of games right now. Orioles still up 5-2. They got some runners on in the bottom of the 8th. But Joe, Blue Jays, Rangers, we talked about this game before first pitch. We talked about the Blue Jays getting some runs across the board. But you said specifically you like the Blue Jays' first 5 money line. How are you feeling right now?
I'm not feeling good at all, Tom. We're at the bottom of the 5th, and the Texas Rangers do have runners on first and second and no outs. This is a problem with the Toronto Blue Jays. They just let you down every time. Now, can they get these runners not to come home? Absolutely they can, because we know the Texas Rangers have left guys on base a heck of a lot as of late, but I'm not sitting in a comfortable position. A 2-1 game right now. Bottom of the 5th, all they needed to do was get out of this 5th inning, holding that 2-1 lead, and then I was looking to come back in on the Rangers. Now the books already have put the Rangers as the favorite at -148, so there's just nowhere where I wanted this game to be. Interesting to see, though, they do still have that total sitting at 7.5. You got to think if they get these runners home, even 2 of them, we're going to be able to go over this total eventually, because Toronto's bullpen, it's a mess. You can't trust them out there. Kevin Gausman getting the start here was the best hope for that first 5 innings for Toronto to be able to make us some money. And now I take the over 7.5 at +102.
So when it comes to betting baseball, obviously do the Pro Baseball Today show right here on SportsGrid every Sunday from 10 to 12 with Donnie Rightside. You know, we talk a lot about, player props when it comes to betting, but one of the areas where I basically do not touch would be first 5s. And, Adam, we had that joke when Adam was on when I talked about, Yankees first 5, whatever it might be. And the line that I used was, for the Yankees specifically, but you could use this for any team, for the Dodgers, the Royals, any team. Like the example I use is I don't like first 5s because it's not only about the pitching, it's about the hitting, where if you bet the Dodgers first 5, you are essentially giving up 2 at-bats from Shohei Ohtani later in the game. You're giving up 2 at-bats for Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt, Corbin Carroll, name any star player. So I actually really don't like first 5s, because if I believe a team can win, I want as much runway as possible, right? I want as much, cracks at the apple or bites at the apple as you possibly can, and that includes batters. It's not only about the pitchers. Now, you not having faith in the Blue Jays relievers is a different story and a reason to bet the first 5. So when it comes to first 5 versus money line, would you do both, or would it just be one or the other?
No, normally when I'm looking at a first 5, Tom, it is because of those relievers out there. And then I'm looking to go on the other side of those bets. Like I said, if we can see Toronto close out this 5th, they have been able to get 1 out. So we still have runners on first and second. But if we're able to get out of this 5th in a 2-1 situation where the Toronto Blue Jays have made the money in the first 5, then I'm going to be moving in on the Texas Rangers. Even though they're down a run, right now they're at +114 with those runners out there. I want a little bit more value. Let's see them not bring any of these runners home, cash that first 5, and then come back in, because it's a pure fade here of Toronto to close out a game. I've been sitting here for way too many games on a Saturday and Sunday where they have let the game go. Games that they should have won, games that they should have closed out, and I just don't see it out of Toronto. Their bats just haven't been able to do it. The relievers haven't been able to do it. So I will be coming back in on the Rangers. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed we have that. Now, if the Rangers go up in the 5th, I'm not coming back in on them for the rest of the game. It might be a look at the total then in these games, but I kind of always have that mindset. If this happens, where am I going to go? And if this doesn't happen, do I stay off, or do I just look at that live total when it does?
Right, and that's a good point to make. Like you have a pregame bet, and then you're looking for something very specific down the line, and that's something I often talk about. Especially in I mentioned it for hockey, where I want to see a live under 6.5, and we may never get that. Where I talked about the other day, and the game started. There was a goal late in the first period, and at that point the live total was 3.5, and then it jumps back up to 4.5, 5.5, and we never got to 6.5. So I want to see a live 6.5 tonight for the NHL, and then I'll be looking to take the under, but we may never get there. And the same thing in the NFL, where let's say a team's favored by 6.5, 7 points, obviously a very key number. I think they can win the game, but I don't want to lay 6.5 or 7. I want a 3 or 2.5. So I want the other team to score. They fall behind, and then we can buy back in. But again, those spots may never be there. And that's an important note that you made. If they do get ahead, or the Blue Jays get ahead, or the Rangers get ahead, you're not looking to buy back into the Blue Jays. You would buy back into the Rangers, though, because those are two very different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of the biggest things for people to learn when they are live betting out there is to look for those adjustments in the lines, because we know they come, and now things are not looking good right now for me, Tom. I won't even be reinvesting if they tie it up here for the Texas Rangers. Now runners on first and third with 2 outs. So 2-1 game. The books still have the Texas Rangers at plus 130 right now on that money line. So that's telling me we're pretty close to getting someone out here. Fingers crossed though on this one.
Fingers crossed on that one. The Reds just put through another 2 runs with a Tyler Stevenson home run. It is 6-0 Reds over the Royals. Michael Lorenzen is getting touched up for quite a bit. That live total now has jumped to 9.5 with minus 132 on the over. So if you have the pregame over, which was 7.5, I believe, for that game, it's not cash, but you are certainly looking good through the top of the 5th with no outs and already 6 runs through. The Mets are still down 1-0 to the White Sox, and the White Sox are now only a plus 100 on the money line. The Mets are minus 128. I don't mind the idea of buying back into the Mets. We are coming up against a break. That's something we can talk about because, frankly, minus 128 or closer to even money for the Mets. That's not a spot we often get them, especially with so much public money going there. And they were minus 250-ish on the money line today. We're coming up against a break. We can talk about that more on the other side of this break, because if the Mets 1 run ties this game, that minus 128 that is now will jump closer to $2 or, minus 200, $2 favorites for the Mets. So we will talk about more of that. And then we have the Dodgers and the Guardians starting at 6:11 p.m. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where 2 of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're back right here on SportsGrid, in-game live, game day. Myself, Tom Vecchio, along with Joe Madden, up until 8 p.m. Eastern. We are going through the day of sports. We touched on some MLB. We have another game closing out. We're likely closing out with the Orioles up 5-2 in the top of the ninth over the Cardinals. There's 2 outs in that one. Blue Jays up 2-1 over the Rangers, top of the sixth in that one. Again, Royals, they are down big, 6-0. The Reds are leading them. Great start from Nick Martinez, terrible start from Michael Lorenzen. And then the New York Mets, after a series win over the Dodgers and a win last night on Sunday Night Baseball, the Mets are getting one hit by the Chicago White Sox, who are leading game 1-0. And the Mets are now minus 104 on the money line. The White Sox are at minus 122. So, Joe, I mentioned this before the break. Buying into the Mets at a price that we really never get them, or we very rarely get the Mets at minus 104. They are getting one hit. Are you interested in the Mets? Can I sell you on the Mets live money line? Or is your pregame take about, hey, big win against the Dodgers, it's just a complete stay away from the Mets today?
Yeah, it's got to be a complete stay away for the Mets for me in this one. I just can't touch them with that game versus the Dodgers. Now, if it wasn't the Dodgers in that late night action last night and they were in the situation where they came off, a win over the Texas Rangers or something like that, then I would be investing in the Mets. And I know it's a great price at minus 104. I just can't get there. I think we might see the Chicago White Sox get the win. But again, I can't invest this team. I think one thing that's interesting here is, even though I don't trust Chicago's bullpen out here, the Mets just aren't really getting those hits today. So I'd look at the under 4.5, coming in at minus 122. My only fear here is that we go to extra innings, and we know extra innings are where these totals go to die, because if the Mets somehow tie it up 1-1 game going into those extras, we get that runner on second, we could very much see the bats come alive and us go over that 4.5. So that's the only fear in that one, Tom, with that total. But otherwise, I would stay off either side.
Yeah, so I certainly understand that, and I'll just say pretty clearly, I'll be on the Mets tomorrow if they lose this game. Like, I haven't even checked the pitching for tomorrow, but if the Mets lose today, I'll be on the Mets tomorrow in some capacity, whether it's a money line, whether it's a spread. Let me check who's pitching real quick for the Mets. It's McGill tomorrow versus Shane Smith. It's a 7 o'clock start. I'm of the belief that, again, this is what I kind of touched on when I talked about the Twins, like buying into variance, like them being one hit is variance, but good teams, or the team that the Mets are, projected to be, where the odds have them, good teams don't lose too many games in a row, and they're not going to be losing 2 games in a row to the White Sox. So I would be on the White Sox, I would be on the Mets if they lose to the White Sox today. I'll be on the Mets tomorrow. And if the Dodgers somehow lose today, even though they have Yamamoto on the mound, that would be 2 losses in a row for the Dodgers. I would certainly look to back them tomorrow. And again, that's just the kind of thing I do for baseball. I buy into losing streaks, buy against winning streaks, or fade winning streaks, whatever you want to call it. One of the games we did not touch on would be the Marlins and the Padres. Padres at home, minus 152 favorites, going up against the Miami Marlins, who are plus 128 on the money line. We have an 8 over-under. Randy Vasquez is on the mound for the Padres. He is terrible. Ryan Weathers on the mound for the Marlins. When it comes to this game, I think I may have to throw together another hit parlay for the night slate and get that action out there, because I have a ton of interest in Kyle Stowers, one of the hitters for the Marlins, or the best hitter for the Marlins, because Randy Vasquez is terrible. We can get into more of that. Do you have any action on this game, Joe?
Yeah, I just wanted to look, Tom. I'm drawing a blank. Who did the Padres just play?
They were just at the Braves this past weekend.
Okay. Yeah, they were. I like the Padres to get the win. I don't like the price, though. And I do think Weathers can come out nice and strong. Now, I'm expecting this one to stay under, even though Vasquez gives up those runs. I do think Miami just won't get enough to help push that total to the over. So I would take it under the solid 8. I can't believe it's actually a solid 8. I was hoping at 8.5, but I'll take the under the solid 8 at minus 118, Tom.
Yeah, and that's a big difference. 8, 8.5, which may not seem like a lot, but in baseball, we get the game goes to extras. We're guaranteed to get a runs point at some point. Like, and that's a huge thing. Like, we talk about key numbers in football, but it's also huge when it comes to baseball. So We're coming up against a break right now. We'll dive more into this game. I got to maybe get some late night hit parlay action going for two players, maybe centered around Kyle Stowers, who has been awesome. Although the lineup's not out, we can double check that as the show goes on. We will have that before the show does end. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid in-game live. We'll be back.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where two of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
15.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We are back right here on SportsGrid in-game live, game day. Myself, Tom Vecchio, and Joe Madden bring you up until 8 p.m. Eastern. We've been talking some baseball. We touched on some NBA with Adam Kaufman, who's here as a guest. We have some other guests coming up about 45 minutes. George Kurtz, one of the faces right here on SportsGrid, and then Cam Stewart a little bit later. You guys know them. They'll be here talking through NBA, MLB, and NHL as the day goes on. But let's get back to some NHL, Joe. I know you have an SGP for tonight's game. You ready for this?
Yeah, absolutely ready for it. I'm excited for this SGA, so let's get right to it. Definitely have SGA on my mind. I'm talking same game parlay, not basketball here. We've got a 4-legger out there on the ice for you. It's coming in at plus 519. I'm going to look at players for their points tonight. I really do think the Florida Panthers come out and dominate. And if they do come out and dominate and they hit Frederick Anderson, because it does look like the Carolina Hurricanes will be going back to Frederick Anderson in this one. And we got to wonder what his mindset is going to be like. I think he's going to be absolutely rattled there with Carolina not having the faith in him in that game 3. So I do think those points and those goals are coming out of Florida. So the first player I'll take for the point for the Florida Panthers is Brad Marchand. I do like Brad and what he's been able to do in the playoffs thus far, and I think we're getting a great price for him coming in here at plus 100. I'm then going to look at Carter Verhaeghe. He's just been an absolute beast here versus the Carolina Hurricanes. His anytime point tonight kind of juicy outside of the parlay at minus 142. but I do have faith in him to light the lamp tonight. So I love the point. And then I'm going to look at Sam Bennett. Everyone loves to hate Sam Bennett, but Sam Bennett has been making us so much money out there if you've been rolling with his goals or his points in the playoffs this season. So Sam Bennett coming in for the point at -138. And then I have to look at Bobrovsky here. Now, outside of the parlay, I did take him over the 24.5 save shots on goal, and I was getting plus money at +110. There also are 23.5s out there. So inside the parlay, I'll take the the over 23.5 save shots on goal coming in at -132. So I'll lay the juice with inside the parlay. Again, 4 legs, Brad Marchand for the point, Carter Verhaeghe for the point, Sam Bennett for the point, and Bobrovsky over 23.5 save shots on goal coming in at +519, Tom.
So I like that. It does build in a little bit of correlation. We have players, they score, and then therefore the Panthers are out ahead, and then the Hurricanes need to do something on offense and apply some offensive pressure, and then therefore Bobrovsky should be the spot to pile up some saves. And again, we're getting a good price at it, over 5-1. So look to that. We talked about it before. I do like Bobrovsky just straight over the 23.5 saves. It was -132. So shop for the best lines available. Once George Kurtz and Cam Stewart get here a little bit later, as I mentioned before, I want to bounce that idea off of them of Bobrovsky for 6+ saves in each period to specifically get that done, have some consistent offensive pressure from the Hurricanes. Now, as we wrap things around, continue for the MLB, low-scoring game, Blue Jays still up 2-1 over the Rangers. White Sox are still up 1-0 over the Mets, and the Reds are still up 6-0 over the Royals. And I just had to make sure that Bo Bichette, he has no hits today after I was on him for a hit yesterday, which now means he is 3 straight games, 3+ games in a row without a hit. We'd like to certainly see him turn that around. Joe, do you have any action for the Yankees and the Angels? That's one of the games that we really haven't touched on. Yankees -174 on the road. Angels +146 and a 9.5 over/under tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to that, I just want to mention I did take the Texas Rangers live at +180 after we got out of that 5th inning. So right now it's the middle of the 6th. Toronto did what Toronto always does. They get those runners out. They were on 2nd and 3rd, threatening there and not able to bring anyone home. So if you want to come back in on the Texas Rangers, it is my lack of faith in that bullpen. They're at +164 right now. So I do like going there. But looking at that late game action out there, New York Yankees, I do think is the right side. And again, this puts me in a hard situation with that money line because it's -176, Tom. I am looking at this one to be that higher scoring game. It's coming in at -124 to the over 9.5. So what I'm going to do is look at the first inning. I think we're going to see some hits out of the Yankees. Now, I know we've got to see Judge being able to hit. Sometimes they struggle out there, but I do think the top of that lineup is going to be able to get us the Yurfie, the yes runs in the first inning in this game coming in at -138. Now, the problem, again, you're going to have to lay that juice, but can we see the Yankees get a couple of runs here? Well, we could, and we could also see the Angels be able to get a run because this Angels team has been playing a little bit better than I would have expected this season. So if you want to look at the over 1.5 runs in the first innings coming in at +194, and I do think it's a pretty solid way to go. I'm looking for a lot of runs in this game, runs to start in that first inning. So give me the Yurfie for half a unit -138. That's the yes runs in the first inning, and then give me the over 1.5 runs in the first inning at +194.
Okay. And I mean, that is 1.5. You would sometimes it's hard enough to get one run, right? We've all been there. Like you bet the yes run, you got multiple runners on, and then ground ball, double play, innings over. Same thing happened in the bottom, but a 1.5. I mean, you get a runner on, and Aaron Judge comes up to bat. That's great. And also the Angels, they have some power at the top of their lineup. We've seen some good power from Taylor Ward recently, Logan O'Hoppe. If you've been diving into player props, they're certainly good. The Angels just did send down Kyron Paris, one of their top prospects, so keep that in mind for their lineup that will be out later today if you're betting player props. Obviously, even if you had a bet on him earlier today before this news, it would just be a no action and void, and you would get it back. But keep that in mind. So for the Mets, they are still down 1-0 to the White Sox. The White Sox do have 2 runners on, 2nd and 3rd, 2 outs in the top of the 6th. All things considered, the Mets are playing the Mets are pitching a great game. Only one run. You think, man, we're only giving up one run with the Mets offense. They should be out there winning this game 5-6-1 at a certain point, because that's what the expectation is for their offense, especially the top of the lineup. But they are not getting it done as of now. If the White Sox push any more runs across the board, we'll certainly see that line jump. I mean, this is the thing. The books are still not hanging a bigger and bigger number on the White Sox. It's only minus 118 for the White Sox and minus 108 for the Mets. At a certain point, that's going to start to jump as the game goes on, where the White Sox are eventually going to get to minus 150. It's already at minus 122. It just moved. But that's something to keep an eye on. If you think the Mets have some type of late game magic, a Pete Alonso, Frankie Lindor homer, or something along those lines, I would wait for the Mets to get plus money on the board. You know, we talked about it before, Joe. You don't want to lay minus 120 on the Mets. I certainly get that. But a plus money number with the Mets, that might be a bit of a different story.
Yeah, a plus money number, if we're getting close to plus 150, right? Like that would be really hard to turn down, the plus 150 mark for the New York Mets versus the Chicago White Sox team that I don't trust at all. But will we ever get that number? It's now gone to plus 110, as the Chicago White Sox do have the bases loaded. They've got the bases loaded with 2 outs, though, Tom. They're a minus 140 favorite, and that total is at 4.5, minus 122 to the over. Do you think Chicago's going to bring these runners home? Things just locked up, so maybe they did. I really think, gut feeling, Chicago probably wins this today.
Minus 148, plus 118 on the Mets right now. Would have to double check and bring that up. Maybe it's a pitching change, whatever it might be, as the bases are loaded. But man, if again, it is a pitching change. Okay, so if the White Sox win today, great. I don't have any action on this game. I don't care. Tomorrow, though, give me the Mets tomorrow. Again, you're not going to lose multiple games to the White Sox. Most teams don't lose multiple games to the White Sox outside the Rangers this past weekend. But, man, Mets tomorrow in a bounce-back spot, I will certainly be looking there. I'll be looking, again, as the Dodgers bounce back, whatever it might be. Any of these good teams bouncing back, I certainly like that. We're coming up against a break right now. We'll touch more of the MLB, more NBA, more NHL. Maybe we'll dive into some French Open as the first round has started for that. We will go through all of that. Myself, Tom Vecchio, and Joe Madden. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where 2 of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're back here on SportsGrid, in-game live, game day on Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to everyone out there. We have some MLB that is underway. We are following the White Sox and the Mets game. White Sox are up 1-0 over the Mets. Bases loaded on top of the sixth. There are 2 outs. It was just a pitching change for them. Reds are up 6-0 over the Royals. Absolutely terrible start for Michael Lorenzen. And then the Blue Jays are still up 2-1 over the Texas Rangers. That game is in the top of the 6th. We have the Dodgers and the Guardians coming up at 6:10. Twins, Rays at 7. Pirates, Diamondbacks at 8. Marlins, Padres at 8:40. And then Yanks, Angels at 9:40 or so to close out the slate. We've run through the MLB. We've run through the live games. We've talked about the NBA. We've talked about the NHL. We did not talk about tomorrow's NHL game, Joe, between the Stars and the Oilers. Oilers won yesterday 6-1 in an afternoon game. They are up 2-1 in the series. Could very well be up 3-0 in the series after that game 1 collapse. But any thoughts on game 4 coming up for the Oilers and the Stars?
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting one. I did go into my thoughts for game 3 and 4 here in Edmonton that Dallas would be able to split. I went big on the Edmonton Oilers in that first game, and I do think it has to be a play to come back in on the Dallas Stars. I look at both of these teams, and we do have strength on both sides of the puck. You look at Edmonton, Connor McDavid waking up, finally getting us those 2+ goals in that last game, coming in at +900. It was fantastic to see his stick come alive, find the back of the net, and be able to get things done. But the depth of the Edmonton Oilers is really showing, and it's really making me question my thoughts that I've had on Stuart Skinner. We know we had that bad game out of Stuart Skinner, but I really don't blame him for that loss in Dallas, where we really did see Dallas be able to convert on that power play over and over and over again in that third period. So looking at this next game here, I have to question what we're going to see out of Skinner. I have to question what we're going to see on that total, and I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, one that Dallas has the opportunity of winning. I know no one wants to bet an under 6.5 between the Dallas Stars and the Edmonton Oilers. It's a scary situation. Powerhouse players on all these lines for both of these teams, but I do think we're going to see Skinner perform like he did in that last game, and I think we're going to see Jay Gottinger have that bounce back. He's been talked about more, Tom, as a stronger goalie than I think he is. We saw that in that last game, but he does have decent numbers in the playoffs. I just don't have as much faith in Jay Gottinger that Skinner has actually given me from what I've seen in the playoffs thus far. But I'm going to look at the under 6.5. I do think we see that bounce back, and I think Dallas has the ability to split the series here. Do I want them at +132? No, because I think Edmonton comes out firing in that first period. I'll be looking at Edmonton in the first period on that puck line, or even to just score that first goal. There's a couple ways you can look in that first period. We've seen Edmonton over and over again be able to get that first goal and Dallas give it up. So I'd look at Edmonton to score the first goal. As soon as that happens, then I want to live bet the Dallas Stars for more plus money, because Edmonton at home, it's deadly. We know that, Tom.
Yeah, once they get that first goal, get the crowd behind them, certainly a very difficult place to play. I do have a Dallas Stars future at 7.5-1, which I bet right before the trade deadline. So obviously I'm very invested in the Stars to win this game, tie up the series, continue to win. There's obviously a point that, I may have to consider, hedging out at some point. I was on the Oilers in game 1. And that was a bit of a theoretical hedge. I'm like, listen, if the Oilers come out, give me plus money in game 1, and they win this, then I'd be halfway to essentially covering what I had on that Stars future. They go into the third period. I'm thinking this is perfect. I get half the money back. Oilers are up, and they obviously collapse. Now I can't bet the series price for this, because if I remember correctly, let's just double check the Oilers after that game 3 win yesterday. I think it's $360 on their series price, which is essentially just prohibitive from betting. So let's just check Dallas, Edmonton. It's $365 now for Edmonton on a series price. And that, I just can't bet that. So I guess I could do correct score if I would want to try and skill shot it and go Edmonton wins in 4-1 or 4-2. But honestly, I'm just hoping that the Stars win, A, to keep the future alive, but B, also give myself a better number to bet on Edmonton. when it's all said and done. I will be on the under 6.5 for that game, and I don't mind Thomas Harley for 2+ shots and -130. And again, those shots are 60-minute shots, has to happen in regulation. Overtime does not count. Now, for a recap of what we just saw in White Sox-Mets, the Mets did get out of the top of the 6th, bases loaded, didn't give up any runs, so it's still 1-0 White Sox. The White Sox are still -160 on the money line. That just locked for me, so maybe if the Mets are getting across a run, -162. Mets are +126. Any looks right now in these two games? I'm not going to say the Reds and the Royals, so that's 6-0. I wouldn't want to be betting that. Do you have any looks for live things right now, Joe?
Yeah, kind of hard here live looking at these games, right? Because I've already invested in Texas. It's the middle of the 7th with the Texas Rangers still down that 1 run, and I'm not sweating it here. I do think they will be able to get it at some point here on the bullpen. We've got Guerrero up to bat, though, and it does look like he struck out, or he got out at least. So we're going down to the bottom of the 7th here. I wouldn't touch anything right now. The one thing I would look at, though, if Texas is able to tie this up 2-2 apiece, I would be jumping all over the over, because I do think this one has the recipe for extra innings to come. So I'd be looking at that extra inning bet. Again, I'm with you. The Reds and the Royals, I expected so much more out of the Royals today. I expected them to be able to get the win and hit Martinez. Now, Martinez still in here at the bottom of the 6th. Once he gets out, though, can we see the Kansas City Royals be able to get some runs on the board? If you think so, that total is sitting at 8.5 with 6 runs already out of the Reds. You got to think we should be able to get there, or you could just look at the live +5.5 for the Royals at +154. Again, I just don't love anything live at the moment. I don't think there's enough happening in these games to really invest, Tom.
Yeah, the Mets are still down 1-0. Royals just got out of that inning. They're still down 6-0. Reds going into the 7th. We'll be back right after this, coming up against a break. Stay tuned right here on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Tigers, 31-17, Matt, on the season. They've got the best pitching in baseball, but don't look now. The Twins are now on their heels at 26-21.
The best hitters can't stay healthy. We obviously saw a situation last week where 2 of those guys got hurt on the same play. So that's the Twins, and I think Twins fans, I'm up in Twins country. Twins fans know that up here, and you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series with a rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're back right here on SportsGrid in-game live game day. We are tracking what's happening in the Mets as they are now out of the inning and down 0-1 to the Chicago White Sox. The Mets only have 2 hits across the board over the 6 innings. Again, they got out of a bases-loaded jam in the top of the 6th without giving up a run. Listen, again, the Mets pitching staff has been a revelation this season, considering the injuries that they're dealing with. Listen, you give up 1 run and only 4 hits in a game. You think your team should be in a spot to win that game, but that is not the case. The Mets offense doing a whole lot of nothing. They're now, plus 130 on the money line for the Mets. It is minus 166 on the White Sox. Frankly, Joe, plus 130 still isn't long enough to have me interested in live betting the Mets. I would want more than that. If they're we just need 1 hit, but man, 130 is not enough.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like enough, does it, Tom, in this one? It just looks like it's not their day to be able to come out and get the win. But then again, I just don't want to back the Chicago White Sox either. Minus 166 on that money line, or laying 1.5 on that run line at plus 225. So I would completely stay off this game, and I am going to completely stay off this game. I had the first 5. I looked at that to the under. Now we do have a total of 3.5. Could we see this one stay under? Absolutely. But again, Tom, look at the line. Under 3.5 coming in at minus 138. That's just not a comfortable range for me to take an under. If anything, I'd be looking at the over, but that's the problem. I just don't trust these teams to get the runs. I could really see this finishing with Chicago getting a 1-0 win.
A 1-0 win for the White Sox would be hilarious. I just want to look at some of so one of the things I like to look at is, Baseball Savant, just look at the live game feeds. So I'm seeing Mets they have, Lindor got a hit with the exit velocity of 106 is the metric that I'd be looking at, but they're getting some good hits, like a 103 ground out, a 102 ground out, a 96 mile per hour ground. So they're hitting the ball hard. It's just that they're not getting those hits, like they're just turning into ground outs or line outs, whatever it might be. The point being is, if I'd be looking to buy into a team that's down, it's not like they're getting completely blown away and like they're not even making contact. They're just getting, tons of strikeouts, not even putting the ball in play. I like to look at these things and say, okay, these hitters are doing okay. They're just not getting hits. So seeing high exit velocity is something that I like to look at. But again, that would have to correlate with getting a good number, which we're not with the Mets at only plus 124. We touched on the Dodgers and the Guardians from a total perspective. We were talking about the Guardians team total was sitting at 2.5, obviously, because Yamamoto is on the mound for the Dodgers. He has been fantastic. Do you have any player props in this game for Dodgers and Guardians?
Not player props, but we can definitely start looking and getting into those player props, because I do think the Dodgers are going to be able to get the runs. One thing that I was looking at was the first 5 innings for the Dodgers to be able to put those runs up on the boards and cover the run line. So laying a run in the first 5 coming in at minus 130. Now, I would rather make a play here somehow on the Dodgers for more of a team total in the first 5. I'm not seeing it on FanDuel. You've got to really shop your lines on different books to see where you're going to be able to get it, because this is something I've seen pop up on FanDuel and then go off. So we can't get a first 5 team total there, but I do expect 3-4 runs out of them. When we look at Yamamoto here, his strikeout prop 6.5, it's actually juiced to that under. I would be more interested in his outs in this game. So just looking at his total outs for it, we're getting it's hard, Tom. It's 17.5. Yeah. It's minus 108, right? Like, it's where I want to be, not the price I want to pay. So what about that? Let's look at what bats do you think are going to hit. Ohtani has been fire. We know that, right? But what do we take him? RBI, home run? Where do you see Ohtani going?
I mean, I would want to look to, like, 2+ total bases is great. Like, just get, hits a double, it's a home run, boom, cash it. But it is minus 125, which I don't like. So, and this is the same thing. Like, I think the 17.5 for Yamamoto, the outs is fantastic, but I'm not laying minus 188 on that. And the 6.5 strikeouts, it's good, but it's, I don't know if I want to go to minus 102, whatever it might be. So we will continue to dive into this as we wrap up these 3 afternoon games. We have the 6 and 7 o'clock games started. In the 6 o'clock hour, we will have George Kurtz on to talk some baseball, some NHL, whatever it might be. And then we'll have Cam Stewart on a little bit later talking NHL and who knows what else, because Cam likes to get involved in a lot of different things. But those guests will be here. We'll wrap up these baseball games. Stay tuned right here on Sports Grid.